Okay, I'm really excited today to have with us Dr. Madeleine Hackney, whose primary appointment is in the Department of Geriatrics at Emory School of Medicine. I used to see all of my patients in the Department of Geriatrics at Wesley Woods, but now that I've switched all over to research, I don't see them as much anymore. But Dr. Hackney is a former dancer, and she does a lot of work on movement. And in aging, one of the things that's a critical problem for most of us as we age is the ability to move independently. And so she's giving us some strategies about how to age healthfully. If you've suffered from Parkinson's disease, her dance therapy has been very key to maintaining mobilization and decreasing rigidity in people who have Parkinson's disease. So at this time, I'd like you to meet Dr. Madeleine Hackney, who's in the Department of Geriatrics, but also at the Center for Visual Neuro Research at the VA Medical Center here in Atlanta. And any of her studies, they're things that anybody in this room can participate in. Dr. Hackney.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Parker. It's wonderful to be here. Can you all hear me okay? All right. Is my mic working okay? All right. Well, terrific. So I'm going to talk to you about the evidence that is building for social dance as medicine, as a matter of fact. So let's see. I have a slideshow. Okay. This is an absolutely wonderful event. 26.
Talk about social dances.
Oh, social dancing is dances that are, coming from the street, just things that people start doing. So it's like waltz and tango and foxtrot and cha-cha-cha. You want to name any others? Hip hop, yeah. So social dance. Those typically means not only that, but dances like that you do with another person, usually a partnered social dancing. That's what I'm talking about in particular. I guess that's important to clarify. But that could be polka, the two-step. Let's see, Balboa, shag. Very good. West Coast swing, hustle. Yes, from New York City. Steppin', sure. Let's see. Rumba, bolero, bachata, merengue. There's something called the, what's that? Yes, absolutely, tango. The pachanga, the lambada. Okay, here we go. Awesome. Now, how do I advance? Do I just push this mouse here? You're going to do it for me, Marissa? Okay, thanks so much. Yeah, and I don't know, did I forget any? Paso doble? What's that? Slow dancing, yes, of course. There's something called nightclub two-step, which I think is a derivative of slow dancing. Foxtrot, yes. Salsa, funk. Mambo. There's one from the Peabody. Anybody know what that is? It's ancient. It's from the 20s. Sure, the Virginia Reel. Yes, square dancing and all that. I happen to kind of like focus, or my expertise is mostly in partner dancing. So it's typically those types of dances, not so much square dancing. I certainly can do them, but my research has mostly been about that. So yeah, social dance as medicine. Let's see what happens. Go ahead. Okay, so I have a couple of objectives for you. And one is to present research that supports social dance as an effective rehabilitative approach for neurodegenerative conditions in older adults, and also to discuss potential mechanisms underlying social or partner dance's effects on psychosocial function in older adults with neurodegenerative disease. So a lot of my work and others has focused on addressing motor impairments and cognitive impairments. So I want you to know about those. The work that I'm going to talk about today is a little bit more like, mood stuff, quality of life, like how do you actually feel about it? And, the psychological, mental health that's involved with social dancing, which I think is of great, great, great importance. So I have other talks that really go into those other aspects, cognitive and motor, but I'm really going to talk about a lot about psychosocial stuff today. Okay, so as you all know, the 21st century has very critical neurological problems that we need to solve. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and all this sort of, Parkinson's plus, Alzheimer's plus type conditions. It's a big deal. And I think the NIH has put a lot of resources towards that, as well as other foundations around the nation. And it's a big priority for the healthcare community. Next. Go ahead, one more. So the PD and AD epidemics, they impact mobility, cognition, and mood. But what we have figured out is that a multifactorial approach is needed. Unfortunately, we cannot just take one pill. We cannot just have one operation. That's not what's going to work for this kind of condition, for Parkinson's, for Alzheimer's. It's just too complex, too many areas and of function in it. The human being are affected. And so it needs to be multifactorial. We have to attack it from all directions. Okay. This picture, by the way, is from a tango therapy conference, the first tango therapy conference in Argentina in 2008, in Rosario, Argentina. And that's the very typical frame or embrace that we see in tango dancing. My participants do not wear those heels, though. I just want you to know. we try to keep it a little bit more, what we would call reasonable footwear. But that was of the first tango therapy conference that I was able to attend as a graduate student. Next. So the work that I've largely done, and people kind of know me for, if I am known for anything in research, is this partner dancing dance called adapted tango or adapt tango. I've shortened it down, where we've adapted an Argentine tango dance form for the impairments and deficits of individuals with Parkinson's disease, later older adults with a variety of issues, and now with MCI, mild cognitive impairment, or Alzheimer's disease. And the cool thing about it, tango dancing, is that it's a sophisticated yet accessible system of tactile communication, meaning touch. Touch is very important. Pressure. That's how you communicate, by touching another person, conveying motor intentions. So specifically, these are goals between someone who acts as a leader, which is the traditional male role, and a follower, which is the traditional female role. And the dances that you see are largely, they're improvised, and they are communicated just by touch. And it's really, really neat system. And I think that's why it was so worthy of studying from the beginning. But our work has been able to show that it does indeed improve motor problems in people with Parkinson's. For example, they're able to walk better. They're able to stand on one leg better. They can reach down and pick something up better, which is vastly important. And now we have a clinical trial as well in a group of individuals who have mild cognitive impairment. Next slide. One more. And so, yeah, so we've done this. It's adapted tango. A lot of my work has been supported by the Department of Veterans Affairs. Thank you very much, as well as the NIH in various ways, the Parkinson's Foundation and other organizations, the Cognitive Empowerment Program, for example. But this shows various groups that we've had. So I did a study in veterans who have low vision, older adults with low vision. It worked great. Because it's communicated all through touch, you don't have to be able to see really to do tango, which is pretty cool, unless you're the leader, of course, but you should still be able to see. And then we also had African-American caregivers who were at risk for developing dementia because their parent had dementia and they had the gene, and that was really exciting. And we also had people with PD and older adults who were at, our oldest old group, which is 80, 85 plus. And the mean age for that group was 85 years old. So it's clearly a therapy that's very, very, feasible, safe, effective for a lot of different groups. Thank goodness. Next slide, please. So we've had a couple of different research questions over the years. But I've restrained myself at this point to mostly partner or classical dance, classical meaning Western classical ballet, and partner dancing. So we do tango in our dance classes for our therapies, but we also incorporate a lot of other types of dances like waltz and foxtrot and salsa and rumba and all sorts of dances because they can all feed into that same general idea. We have been doing, I concentrate on the rehabilitation of mobility, motor, cognitive, and psychosocial domains. So I really focus on that those behavioral outcomes. How does this individual behave afterwards, after they've had the therapy, which is, what's usually matters to them very much. And then, of course, I have focused mostly on neurodegenerative diseases of aging, so specifically Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. You can ask me questions about stroke. I'm just not going to be quite as fast to answer. But that's where I've been devoting my time and energy, because one person can only do so much. But that said, these other conditions, stroke, MS, et cetera, should be studied as well. And there are certainly other types of dances that one can look at. Yeah, so what we originally did was Argentine tango that was specifically adapted for PD impairments. And so things like bradykinesia. Bradykinesia is slowness or poverty of movement. Balance problems, shortened steps, turning and multitasking, backward walking, freezing of gait, and internal generation of movement. Now, you may have heard before that Parkinson's has a lot in common with Alzheimer's disease type, neuropathology, and behavioral manifestation. And so what we learned from Parkinson's, we can definitely apply towards dementia type related motor issues, which, by the way, is getting a lot more attention these days from the NIH. The motor implications of what happens when you have an Alzheimer's type situation. So what happens is that when you're dancing, you can move at a variety of speeds, ranging from fast to slow, and you also have to stop here and there. It's a lot about controlling your movement, deciding when you go and where you go. You learn while you're dancing, you learn how to stand on one leg for longer than you may normally. So that helps you increase your static and dynamic balance ability. Shorten steps, you're encouraged to take longer steps because you have a partner, they can help you to take those longer, bigger steps because you are literally being helped by that individual throughout. So I should talk to you about partners. When in my therapy, we have the person with PD or MCI or whatever dances with typically an Emory undergraduate student. And so that individual can really help the individual who's working on expanding their movement boundaries a lot by providing that additional balance support. And so it works out great. We also teach you how to walk backwards safely, because while you can walk backwards safely when we're younger, that comes very, very naturally. Over time, walking backwards can be something of a little bit of hazardous depending on, what's going on, but we teach you how to do that in a very safe and effective way. And internal generation of movement, that's based on the fact that folks with Parkinson's in particular have trouble with a particular part of their brain called the basal ganglia that does control the internal generation of movement. The idea that you just get up and go do something. And in tango as well, because it has that strong cognitive frontal engagement, it allows someone to overcome and use other parts of the brain that would otherwise be taken care of by the basal ganglia, or the part that's not working so well in people with PD. So we've been able to tackle this in different ways and been doing this since 2006. Okay. Yes. Yes, ma'am. PD means Parkinson's disease. AD would mean Alzheimer's disease, but typically I work with folks who have MCI. Are we all familiar with the term MCI? No, that means mild cognitive impairment. MCI, not dementia. It means mild cognitive impairment. Okay, so adapt tango classes are typically, we do 20 classes over a 10 to 12 week period for 1 to 1.5 hours in 10 to 13 weeks. Everyone gets to both lead and follow all the steps. They engage in dynamic balance. Do y'all know what dynamic balance means? So when you walk from place to place, that's dynamic balance because you are losing and regaining your balance with every step. Okay, that's walking itself is dynamic balance. The ability to, you have to lose your balance when you're walking. It's just the way it is. And then you regain it. And that's the miracle of what walking is. We practice that because it's super important to improve balance in general. So when you improve, to improve balance, you'd want to, it's okay to, hold on. I don't trust that is it working? Is my mic working? I don't think so. Okay, so you can do static balance would be just standing on one leg, right? But dynamic balance is moving from one foot to the other. The static balance will help you, but it may not help you so much in walking and just moving around. So that's why we have to practice both. The classes are all progressive, meaning you'll learn something new every single class, which is super important because of neuroplasticity. Do y'all know what neuroplasticity is? No, I have a slide about it, but just really quickly, neuroplasticity is your brain's hunger for learning new things so that it can improve. And neuroplasticity can be by exposing yourself to both good things and bad things. You can go through neuroplasticity. So let's expose ourselves to good experiences as much as possible. Folks with Parkinson's or AD or MCI are paired with healthy, well-meaning just individuals who have strong balance responses. It involves improvisational step patterns, which may be key to therapy. Being able to explore new movement, being able to just create new things is very good for you. And a lot of the research is beginning to show that creativity is very, very important. Random perturbation, so that's for the follower. They don't know what step's gonna come to them next. And then there's frequent rhythmic variation. Next. Okay, adapt tango intervention. Within the intervention, we get to interpret motor goals through touch. You get to connect previously learned and novel steps. Always learning novel steps and movements. You get to develop musicality, the ability to listen to music and then experience it and demonstrate how you would move to it. And the class structure is we always do like what we call a practica for the first 15 minutes where you can just practice steps that you learned at the last class. A 22-minute warm up, which is full body, and we use all the popular songs. People get to be DJ for the day, and they suggest all kinds of music. And I have learned so many music that I had never heard of before, but we get to listen to it. It's popular music. And then we do partnering and rhythmic exercises that are done to music, and it's all very codified, etc. The good thing about it is I try as a teacher, and my teachers that I have trained, we don't leave anybody behind. We always adapt it so that they feel like they can get it and they can dance it on their level. So we don't do super, super, super complex steps and then say, okay, go do this. It's all introduced in, bite-sized steps. Next. This is my homage to other dance styles. I was told that this, either spelling is correct. So I just wanted you, to point out that there are, if you can think of, 100 different sports, there's definitely 100 different dances out there and from all over the world. And of course, people have been dancing since time immemorial, and dance has always been used to heal. It's not that new. The stuff that I do, we're just putting it into the scientific method. That's about it. But it has always been used for something, therapeutic in various ways. And so there's just a variety of different dances out there in the world, from Bharatanatyam, and then we have West African dances, and we have Krunk. Y'all ever heard of Krunk? That's one of the new dances that I don't know this. The young people are doing that. That was on So You Think You Can Dance, though. Dances from all over the world, and they're all worthy of being studied. I just want to make sure I send that plug out because it's super important and they probably will be. But I'm going to stick to my lane. All right. So over the years, we've been doing things like optimizing therapy for neurodegenerative diseases of aging through dance-based training. We've answered questions like, do tango steps and structure improve mobility more than steps and structure of other partner dances? Everyone always goes, well, I've heard this one a lot. Okay, tango's great. What about waltz? Or what about, you name it, the dance of the week? And the truth is that we do have some evidence about that. I think I have a slide that will show that. But the truth is that dances that are very similar to tango in some ways, meaning a ballroom dance that moves around the dance floor, those dances may be just as good, but tango's useful because it's got this improvisational nature that allows the instructor to come up with new dances all the time and really mix and match them, including the rhythmic changes of the feet in very flexible ways. So they can really tailor the therapy to the individual who needs to work on a specific thing. So there's also, does having a partner actually attenuate mobility gains? That was a good question, right? Because if you're dancing with a partner all the time and then you don't have the partner, are you going to walk better? Are you going to think better? Does that matter? So we did a study to find that out. And the good news is that it does not attenuate the mobility gains. And then we asked if high volume intensive tango classes were feasible and efficacious, because sometimes you need that boot camp approach. Sometimes you got to get started and you need to come for 2 weeks, 5 days a week. You need to come to a lot of tango dancing. This is just the way it is sometimes, right? We wanted to see if that's something people could do. And you know what? The answer is, guess what? Yes, people can come for 5 days a week for 2 weeks. People can come for 5 days a week for 3 weeks and come to all their lessons. And they have such a good time that it's all good. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, folks. Because, right, exercise is supposed to be a daily thing, right? Isn't that what your doctors are saying now, more or less? It's every day, y'all. All right, cognition too. We look at that. Can adapted tango improve spatial cognition? Answer is yes, it can. As a matter of fact, we have the empirical evidence to demonstrate that. And then psychosocial. Like I said, I'm going to talk a lot about that today. Does partner dance actually improve quality of life? We asked if adapted tango improved participation in older adults, and are objectively observed improvements also observed subjectively? These are all questions that we had. Next. So here are the psychosocial benefits of partner dance, or adapt tango in this case. So one of our first studies that we showed about this was we administered it's called the Parkinson's Disease Questionnaire 39, and other conditions have something very similar. And quality of life measures are often interested in things like, how does your condition, whatever it is, affect your ability to get around, mobility, your ability to perform activities of daily living, ADLs, your emotional well-being, whether you feel stigmatized because you have a condition, does it affect your social support, cognitive impairment, communication, whether or not you have discomfort in the body, and then some summary index scores. And so what we were able to show is that in people with Parkinson's who participated in 20 lessons of Adapt Tango, they reported overall improved health-related quality of life, and health-related quality of life related to both social support and mobility. So the 20 lessons, it changed the way they were reporting about how they felt about their lives and how their health affected their quality of life. And for me, that's huge. That's vital, right? Next. And then we did a study. This was with Wendy Holmes at Brunel University with some of her students in the occupational therapy program. And we published a qualitative study. So qualitative studies and quantitative studies are slightly different. Qualitative studies is when you do like focus groups, interviews, and you get people to talk. And then you look at what all they say, and then you analyze it by like looking at what themes come up repeatedly by different people and who, what are common themes to everyone and what are like maybe more unique. And then you look at specific quotes and you see, does this like quote kind of illustrate really well the phenomenon that this group of individuals might be experiencing. So we took these individuals who had been through the tango dance program and we asked them, various questions. I don't have the field guide right now, but it was about how the being in the program impacted their lives in different ways. And several themes came up. And these four were like, one was adoption of new activities and increased confidence, the transferability of what they learned in the tango classes to their daily life, cognitive and perceptual awareness, and then social interaction. And I'm just going to read over these quotes a little bit because I think they really help to exemplify these themes. And these individuals said things like, I think it was good to have that concentration. I found myself watching those dance instructors closely so I would learn. And I think the fact that I concentrated, it put some structure into it. Anyway, I think that was helpful to press myself into doing that. So that individual got a lot out of this opportunity to concentrate, to think about something, to get their body to do things that maybe they weren't used to doing. And they found that therapeutic. And then another person says, when I'm walking, I think of music and I'm trying to march to the rhythm of the music. And if I start lagging, which I tend to do, I play a little march rhythm and bring myself up to speed, which is so cool. That is cool because music is supposed to be really, really powerful. Right now, the NIH is very interested. They're throwing a lot of resources towards studying music and how it can be used therapeutically for individuals with neurological issues. So I don't know if y'all feel that way, but music can just, how it can just kind of get you going. It can start you up and keep you going. That's what that I think that quote is talking about that. And then someone says, before this tango thing started, I was not a joiner. I hadn't been around people that had PD except for my mother. And so getting out to meet other people with Parkinson's and seeing how lucky was, well, heck, I'm 14 years into this so far, and I'm really doing good. I think luckier than some people. So getting together with a group taught that individual that, doing all right. And then, so the support, right? Support is super important. And then this person says, I think one of the things it did, and what I seem to have been hearing, it opened doors to other activities and it broke barriers that may have existed to doing other things and got us involved more and more active. So the idea is like, what should you try out something new, like a tango class or whatever? It might inspire you to do other things. It might open doors to other things that, it may not be about the tango. It may be about getting there, but you just happen to need the tango to like get you to where you really want to be or need to be. Okay. So there's a lot of possibility with this. And so we were able to show also that participation. So there's this concept by the World Health Organization, the WHO, of participation, which is your ability to participate, to actively engage meaningfully in life's activities. And we also did a study that looked at that, like how it speaks to like kind of what the last quote was about, is that people, by being involved in the tango program, it kind of increased their ability to engage actively in other important activities that were important to them. Because the particular questionnaire that we ask about is like, does this matter to you? Are you able to do it now? It's that kind of thing. And the answer was overall, yes. So it did tend to help. And our quantitative data, so it's social support and autonomy. And the open-ended responses do reveal that aging and combined aging and disease-related issues have a lasting impact upon participation that we have to fight against all the time, pretty much. But, tango dancing is one option. Okay, go on. So folks would talk about lack of energy, limited mobility, frustration with not being able to drive, and memory problems were the things that they were facing, just kind of ordinary stuff in a way. But they had a stronger sense of determination and just demonstrated resilience to continue activities and relationships that were important to them. So again, it wasn't about becoming a fantastic tango dancer, although if some of you may do, that could happen. Somebody in here could be the next great American tanguero. You know what a tanguero is? Male tango dancer. Could be one of you out there. All right, continue, please. All right, and this one actually, I wasn't so happy about this study, but I think the findings, but it's the way it is. So there's actually a mismatch between subjective and objective improvement. Subjective meaning, I think I've improved in my balance. And objective meaning, the doctor did a test on you and rated you and says, you didn't improve on your balance. And so what our study here showed is that folks would say, oh, I don't know, I have more endurance now, but then you'd rate them on their 6-minute walk test and see how far they could actually walk in 6 minutes. And you'd say, no, you didn't walk further. Or it could be the other way around where, it could be like you have this that you do have a great improvement, but you don't feel like that. And so that just speaks to, like, I guess, human nature. And I don't know if it's something that would be isolated to just, improvement from a tango class or not, possibly. I mean, I guess, if your jam is more boxing, maybe you think you're getting more out of it than if tango. Anyway, these are just, things to think about because, again, the way people feel about themselves and whether or not they're doing better, again, is pretty important. So anyway, that's what this study showed. And it's got a really pretty figure, don't you think? Next, Marissa. Okay, so why does dance work? Is it leading? Is it following? That was one question that I had when I wanted to do my career development award. So when we're junior investigators, we sometimes write these grants so that we can be developed in our career or develop our career. And so I wrote a career development award thanks to the Department of Veterans Affairs. They funded it. And it was like, oh, is it better to be a leader or a follower? And since I already told you that everybody who dances both roles, you might know the answer to that question at this point. But we wanted to look at that. And we wanted to look at the neural mechanisms about it. And the reason is because I don't know if y'all have ever done partner dance, something to try out because it's a very unusual experience. Because it's really weird how people can communicate. Hey, go over here, go over there, turn, do this, do that, just by looking at you maybe, or just the way they guide your arms and your body. And so there's a big difference between leading and following. Leading, I think of as an internally guided strategy because you're coming up with what you're going to do next. And that's IG strategy. You get to plan the motor program. You get to choose the direction. You get to choose how far you go. You get to choose the timing and interpret the music, and you choose how much you're going to rotate and spin, and you get to choose the path, and it's a very world-centric perspective, whereas the follower has a very different kind of contextual sense of where they are and everything and what they're going to do. They have different goals in mind. So the externally guided strategy, which is following, responding to cues and all that, you have to respond to the motor program. You have to have motor program flexibility because you have to be ready for whatever's coming your way. You have to be able to detect cues. You have to have that balanced reaction. So if someone's walking into you, you have to be able to catch yourself so you don't fall. And they typically have more of a leader-centric perspective because you're getting all of your information from that leader about what y'all are going to do next, because that's part of the agreement. So I thought it'd be interesting to see if one group was assigned to leading and one group was assigned to following, what would happen. And it has nothing to do with whether you're a man or a woman. People were randomly assigned to leading and to following. Next. Oh, and I don't have any data about that. But anyway, what we largely found from that particular study, the leading, can you go back? From the leading and following study was that both were beneficial to some degree, but we found that mostly switching back and forth is the best thing to do. And I do have other results that we are trying to look at a little more closely because there may be a little bit of something to following in particular, especially for people with Parkinson's, because they benefit from external cues a lot. But there are benefits to both roles. One is you're responding to external cues, which can help mobility and cognition, whereas the IG strategy or the leading is all about frontal engagement, using that cognitive control, which is probably things that we have to go through. Next. So this was a published paper, another Department of Veterans Affairs supported work, where we looked at African-American women who had family history of Alzheimer's disease, and they participated in the Adapt Tango program. It was a fantastic group. We had a lot of fun. And next. And we were able to show, in particular, we did show that they improved in mobility and cognition, but I just want to show some of these caregiving measures because they were caregiving, right? So they're coming and having like a break from their caregiving responsibilities, and they're going to go, they came twice a week to dance. And what we saw were large positive effects in the Tango group for the caregiver measures or measures of caregiving burden. In addition to doing Tango, we also, by the way, have a wonderful program called the Dreams Program or Dreaming Together. And that's specifically for caregivers for people with dementia of all kinds. So Lewy body dementia, Alzheimer's disease, you name it, we cover it. And it involves coaching with a medical student from Emory University about strategies, and you learn from personal stories and other sorts of things. So if you are a caregiver or if you know someone who is a caregiver, we have a study that is ready for you. And it's a program that a lot of people benefit from, a whole lot. And but if you do Tango, that might also help because we were able to see that role captivity and management of situation also improved for caregiving, which is another exciting area of research for the NIH and for Emory University. So this is my R01 or my team's R01, the partner trial, which we're almost done with, actually. We've almost got all our participants in it. We are looking for a few more good folks, and it's called Partner Rhythmic Rehabilitation for Enhanced Motor Cognition in Prodromal Alzheimer's Disease. And the short title is Partner. Next. It's a national clinical trial. And the idea was, I've been talking to you about Tango forever. We call it Partnered Rhythmic Rehabilitation for the NIH. Don't ask why we have to change these things, but you can't just say dance sometimes. I don't know why that's an issue, but it is. So I call it PRR or PER. And we know that it trains motor, cognitive, and social domains. And so we're almost done with our trial, and we're looking at cardiovascular and vascular inflammatory measures. We're looking at neural measures. We're doing MRI, looking at it from all different directions. And the folks in this study, and like I said, we have a few more spots, participate in 3 months of biweekly lessons, and then they drop down to just 1 lesson a week, and really only have to come 3 times a month for another 9 months after that. So they're in the study for a year doing the Tango, or they are assigned to a walking program, which is excellent and lots of fun. And I have a video about that, actually. If you want to see it later, I can show you from the Journal of Visualized Experiments. Next. And we're trying to figure out if touch is extra important, if that's like a thing that leads to neural mechanisms of improvement. And we have a novel task where the person lies in the scanner and they watch a couple dancing Tango, but they're cut off you can't see their faces. You can just see their shoulders and down. So the idea is to immerse yourself as somebody who is dancing yourself, and you listen to traditional Tango recordings and you'll feel the touch as you're going through the experience. And so we just want to see about the level of engagement, again, on a neural level, through both being touched, listening, and watching, because that touch aspect is probably super, super important. So it's like an enriched experience. And we've seen that there's a cluster that's unique to being touched, listening, and watching all together in the brain. There's a cluster posterior cingulate cortex, by the way. And we're finishing up. Partner dance is a movement conversation. How is this accomplished? I also do a little bit of robotics. I don't know if y'all get excited about robotics. I didn't see anybody's eyes light up just now. Oh, there we go. One of you gets excited about robotics. I'm not really a techie. I'm really not, but I think it's important to be involved in research related to robotics because the robots are coming, y'all. They're coming. Okay. So it's important to make them the way we want them to be, right? And everybody needs to be involved. If you ever get a chance to participate in a robot study, do it, please, so that our engineers out there, the folks designing it, will make it appropriate, safe, efficacious, all those good things, right? So if we're going to use it, I'd rather it be something I want to use. So we did some studies about leading and following dance steps in human-human interactions. We had a robot that we did, this was 10 years ago, where we danced with the robot, and the robot sensed what we were doing and was able to dance. I mean, all the robot could do was this. That was pretty much it. But, you know, hand it to Cody. Cody could do that much. So we've done some dance steps. Next. And we had expert dancers evaluate the robot that performed partner stepping via haptic interaction. The important thing about this is that, so the reason this is so important, if a robot touches you, you want him to touch you the right way, like safely, because robots are powerful. They're not creatures. They're not individuals. They're machines. They're powerful. So we need to do a lot of work to know. It's actually a difficult problem to get a robot to touch a human being in a safe way, safe, reliable way. And so that's why partner dancing is a great model for that, because it involves safe communication and a tactile means. And that's what the number one reason that we did this particular study and we're able to publish it. Next. And we also had older adults who engaged in partner stepping interactions as well. And they found it feasible and they found it acceptable. Next. So there's a big future of robotics and rehabilitative scenarios. I, along with Jerry Feldman's here, you want to raise your hand, Jerry? He's one of our stakeholder advisors on our robotics team, working with the new robot called Zesty. And Zesty is going to be an exercise buddy. So like Peloton, but better. Come into your house, be your buddy, get you to exercise and all that. But we're putting a lot of time and energy in trying to involve all the stakeholders, you know, the physical therapists, the occupational therapists, the people who have the older adults, the Parkinson's patients, the folks with MCI, et cetera. We're going to get them in there so that they can give feedback so we can make that technology as good as it can be. That's the goal. So I love dance and everything, and I love to dance with humans, but I will dance with robots if it's necessary to help out humanity down the road. So future research should definitely investigate neuroprotective properties of dance for rehab. Dance, even with a robot, may be more engaging, enjoyable than something like computerized cognitive training. We're trying to come up with stuff that will be, you know, interesting. So future directions, I'm going to talk about future directions really quick. Then I'm going to talk about 2 studies that we're doing, just in case you're interested and want to sign up or whatever. Future directions are, we need to look more at mechanisms about why dance and things like dance, music-based movement, whatever you want to call it, are beneficial so that we can make the therapies better and better. And we're going to look at Adaptango for other populations, a refined understanding of human touch interactions that convey movement goals, and more use of social dance and dance art as medicine. And here's 2 ongoing studies. This is the paired study. So if you know someone who has Parkinson's, they may be eligible for this study. This is for folks who are starting to not think that their meds are working so great. And so we'd like to get them involved. I have 2 coordinators here who can talk to you about that right after, if you'd like to hear about it. And then we have the DREAM study. I have Dr. Raffier over there in the back, if you're interested in that. This is the caregiver coaching program that I was talking about for caregivers with dementia. And that's it for me. If you want to just one more, meet the team. There's a lot of collaborators. Meet a lot of collaborators to go on. Postdocs, undergraduates, mentors, graduate, etc. Next. And then these are funders. Anyway, that's it.
Dr. Hackney, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions
Yeah.
about how
Oh,
they can
she's
get
like, yeah,
involved
go back.
in
2, 3.
registering for adapted tango
Which ones did you go back?
information about how to get involved in the adapted tango classes. I think you put that up there. Is there not a flyer?
Yes, actually contact me at mehackn@emory.edu. I have a flyer that I could show up, but
I think Marissa's going to put that in the chat, but there's another question just to get things going. What's the difference between your adapt tango class and a regular ballroom dancing class? If it's all about balance and gait, why wouldn't you just take a ballroom dance class?
well, our classes are longer. They're about an hour and a half, and they're tailored to individuals who might have impairments of various kinds. I'm not saying not to go to a ballroom class, go to a regular ballroom class, Shirley, if that works for you. We just spend more time, and we're going to be, it's also free if you're in a study. So there are a lot of reasons, but we teach things in a little bit different method just so that it's accessible to as many people as possible.
Okay, I'm going to ask one other question that's all in here as well. Oh, it won't move. We've got the flyers for getting in the class. Can you go again? I mean, you went into great detail about movement, but the whole thing with dance is to help older people balance and walk better. And what are they doing that helps them walk better? And why are taking short steps bad for you?
Oh, that's a great question. So what are you doing? You're challenging your motor repertoire. So you're required to do steps that you may not habitually do. And you're going through things. It's sort of like you're getting ready for just about anything because you're taking bigger steps. You're stepping in all the different directions. You're preparing yourself to be able to recover from like those balance perturbations that may come along. And shorter steps are not great because sometimes your head and your upper body, your trunk, will get ahead of your feet. And if you've taken a little tiny step, you're going to fall because you're not bringing your feet back underneath to become your base of support. You have to bring it underneath your center of mass with every step.
Another question online is, what are the pros and cons of Neuralink?
I don't think I know what context are we talking about for Neuralink?
I don't think we know the answer.
Okay. Oh, I have a question right here.
You were mentioning accessibility, and as a matter of fact, a lot of people can't go to the classes in real life. So I want to understand what, if you can give like a percentage to it, the effectiveness of actually teaching it virtually and being effective for the person.
Oh,
just
sure.
roundabout.
Sure. So virtual classes are great. There's a couple of, we actually tried very hard during the pandemic to introduce virtual classes, and they've been done in various fashions. One of the issues is do you have a partner at home? And not everyone does. And so that's one of the kind of drawbacks there. What we typically try to do is we will provide transportation for those who do not have transportation to our studies. And some of the things that we did during the pandemic where we used hula hoops instead of holding onto arms. So it created additional space between folks. We did that like six feet of separation. So virtual classes are great. Like I said, it's a little easier probably as a teacher to correct and help people if you're in person. And so there's that benefit of being in person, but there's certainly, you can learn a lot virtually as well. And hey, if you get yourself a robot buddy at home, the robot, dancing buddy. Yeah. Then you could have a virtual class at home.
Dr. Hackney, it's hard enough to learn these dances, period.
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
So how do you teach people with mild cognitive impairment?
Yeah. So
PD, how do you teach these
how do we do
dances?
it? I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. Osmosis, telepathy. No, we break it down as simple as it needs to be. And it's actually really cool. Like, so I was a professional dancer, right? So I danced with like some of the best people in the world, and it was terrific. But I really enjoy my career now where it is. It's been very fulfilling because you can break down those elements down to very, very basic elements, and people can handle that. They can handle that. They can handle, like, I sometimes I'll just focus on just the rhythm, and I'll say, let's clap together a rhythm. And you'd be amazed what you can clap, because we clap it, we tap it with our foot, we shift it in our hips, we march, and then we walk that rhythm. So we do all the stages to getting there, if that makes sense. And then maybe I won't work on the rhythm at all. I'll say, you march to the beat of your own drummer, but we're going to do this shape. And so we separate the shape from the timing, and people can get that. They can get, okay, now we're all going to turn our body here, and we're going to just walk down this way. So if you have a teacher who knows how to teach things and introduce them to the level that you're ready for, that's why it works, because we don't leave anybody behind, if that makes sense. And a good teacher will know that. They'll know, oh, I've lost my student. I have lost my student. I need to take a step back and get there. And it works really, really well. We've done this with hundreds and hundreds of classes, hundreds of people. I've trained more than 100 instructors to teach it. And it's, it's still just, we only have two legs. At least we don't have 4 legs.
How easy is it to get into this study? Because I see a lot of couples here that want to enroll.
Oh, yeah, that would be great. So you just, like I said, email me or Dr. Raffier. Actually, Dr. Raffier in the back, we can share her email address as well. And she has some. Yeah, why don't you pass those out?
Okay.
And if you want to share Forazan Raffier's
Okay.
email as well, which is right there.
We've got a couple little questions
Dr. Raffier
here.
is running our R01 right now, and we'd love to have you in it. What you would do is you would indicate your interest, and then Kathleen Carroll Sauer will call you and make sure that you're eligible for the study, because the dance study requires that someone has mild cognitive impairment. And then they'll see that she'll see if you're eligible, and then we'll keep on going. We'll take a step from there. And then we want to get as many folks into the studies as possible.
Do you have any line dancing, which doesn't require a partner?
Yeah, well, I'd love to do some line dancing. I do have a study that I am hoping gets funded by the NIH March 1st. It's being reviewed in just a few days. And that actually is much more like, it does not require a partner. It's ballet based, and it's called Mystic. And it's very intriguing, and people enjoy it quite a lot. I do have a colleague who is from University of West Florida, Crystal Bennett. She's written is doing some line dancing. I don't have any line dancing studies right now, but I sure do need to put one out. Yes, ma'am.
The NIH.
Oh, National Institutes of Health.
Oh, okay.
There are one of our biggest supporters at the Emory University for research, by and large.
NIH is funded by the tax dollars that you pay into the system.
Exactly.
So you need to take advantage of it.
Yes.
What's the location of these dance classes?
Oh, currently we are at Wesley Woods, and we are at we have a CBOC. Wait, don't do that. Community-based outpatient clinic for the VA, and that one's on Claremont and 85-ish near Century Center. And then we also have 1 day a week we teach at EP6, which is just next door. But my entire operation is going to be moving to EP57, which is across the street.
Sheridan. Up Sheridan.
Executive Park 57, which is that way. And we're going to be moving there, and we're going to have a space there as well. So we have options.
Okay, you were mentioning improving the gait and you know, the movements and the users. What tools are you using? Because there's one tool that I have called Gait Rate, created by Georgia Tech.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I was wondering which tools do you guys actually use, and do you measure them? And what tools would you like to see? I'm an engineer. I'm in
Oh,
technology.
okay, awesome. So we use a stopwatch quite often. We measure out 20 feet, and we start the stopwatch when the first heel passes, and we stop it when the second heel passes the second line. So that's our old-fashioned way of rating gait. We also have, it's called APDM. It's a company, and it creates these things. They're inertial wireless IMUs that you put on different body segments. And that's another way. It's a form of motion analysis, and that's another way of getting spatiotemporal parameters. And yeah, I'm always interested in something that's easier, more reliable, and all these sorts of things.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hackney. Dr. Hackney and